decir que puedo hacer 5 por 2, que me da 10, y lo que hago con mi denominador tengo que hacer a mi numerador. So 1 por 2 me da 2. So esto quiere decir que 1/5 es igual o es equivalente a 2 ¿qué? Décimas. So ya tenemos una fracción equivalente a 1/5. Ahora yo puedo escribir esas 2 décimas como
Here's meteorologist Ramisha Shade with what's happening right now. Ramisha.
Well, I am tracking a severe thunderstorm just to the north and west of the downtown Houston area. Right now, it is right on top of Cypress, dumping some very heavy rain and producing a lot of dangerous lightning and wind gusts, potentially 50 to 60 miles per hour, along with some severe hail, around 1 to 1.5 inches possible. This is tracking off to the south and east around 25 miles per hour, so it should reach Jersey Village in about 6 minutes. The Spring Valley area in about 26 minutes if it continues at this same tracking speed, and Hillshire Village around 27 minutes from now. But eventually, parts of this may make it into the downtown Houston area. So heads up, be ready for some large hail, strong, possibly damaging wind gusts, and heavy rain. Also, strong storms developing south and east of downtown. This is going to be around Galena Park, Pasadena, and over towards Park Place and Brookhaven. So certainly be cautious, stay alert. These storms mean business, and they are pulsing up and becoming strong to severe at times.
Thanks, Ramisha. Nearly 20 years after 18-year-old Natalie Holloway disappeared during a trip to Aruba, the prime suspect in the case has been extradited to the United States.
Johan Vandersloot is facing extortion and other wire fraud charges. Fox's Jonathan Siri explains what's next.
The main suspect in the disappearance of 18-year-old Natalie Holloway is now in U.S. custody. A plane filled with FBI agents transferred Johan Vandersloot from Peru to Birmingham, Alabama on Thursday. There, he faces federal charges for alleged financial crimes against the Holloway family.
The closure may come in that they get to face him in court in the United States.
Vandersloot is currently serving a 28-year sentence in Peru for the murder of a 21-year-old woman. Peru agreed to his temporary extradition to the U.S. to stand trial.
Good evening. Good evening. The meeting is now convened. It is 5:31 p.m. I would ask everyone to please silence your cell phones. My name is Audrey Momenai, and I will be presiding over this meeting until a board president is elected this evening. A quorum of the board, yes ma'am, a quorum of the board is present in the board auditorium. They are from my right on the platform: Cassandra Ozen Bandy, Michelle Cruz Arnold, Angela Lamont Flowers, Rick Campo, Rolando Martinez, Paula Mendoza, and Adam Ravon. We will do, my mic is on. We will do our introductions in a moment, but please first rise for a moment of silent meditation. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance in honor to the Texas flag. We're missing them. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, and indivisible. Thank you. Please be seated. I'd like my colleagues to each introduce themselves briefly, beginning with Ms. Ozen. Bandy, please proceeding across the platform.
If you're a boxing fan, you know these two, Jermel Chorlo.
Bandy, I'm a native Houstonian. I'm a graduate of Grissom Elementary School, T.H. Rogers Middle School, and Booker T. Washington High School. My husband and I have one adult son and 2 young children who are 4th generation HISD students. My grandparents graduated from Wheatley High School, and my parents graduated from Wheatley High School. It is an honor to be here with you all tonight. Thank you.
My name is Michelle Cruz Arnold. I am a product of the Goose Creek Independent School District in Baytown, Texas. My husband, John Arnold, and I have one son named George, and he is a student in Houston Independent School District. He is a rising 4th grader. My husband, John, and I have lived in Houston for 16 years. We both love Houston ISD and believe in public schools. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Jeanette Garza-Lindner. I've lived in Houston over 20 years, and I have 2 children in HISD schools in 5th and 6th grade. I'm here because when we entered kindergarten and we saw the disparity of outcomes in our schools, I couldn't rest until we did something about it. And so I'm glad to be here to do the work we can to help improve our schools in HISD. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Angela Lamond Flowers. I am a native Houstonian. I grew up in South Park, Missouri City, and then we moved to the north side where I graduated from Klein ISD Public Schools. I'm a mom of 4, and I raised my children in 3rd Ward. I'm a high school English teacher, a former principal, and an educational advocate with 25 years in the classroom. I've worked at educational nonprofits supporting school districts, and I raised 3 children here in HISD. My children received SPED services, and I chose to be on the school board to be a community voice focused on closing the achievement gap, improving our SPED services for all our families, and raising student outcomes for all our students. Thank you.
Mic on. Oh, sorry. My name is Rick Campo. I've lived in Houston for over 47 years. I've spent my time here raising my family, building a business, and using my energy, experience, and advocacy to build a better Houston. I joined the HISD school board for the same reason that all of you are here today, to support a great education for all HISD students. My grandparents were immigrants from Spain who came to this country as migrant farm workers with little formal education. As far back as I can remember, my Lala told me that I needed to get a great education or I'd be in trouble in the future. I was the first in my family to graduate from college, and it wasn't easy. Fortunately, I found teachers to help me get to a college level that my high school didn't prepare me for. All of the school board members here have similar stories and share the same desire to improve HISD student outcomes and achievements. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Buenas tardes. My name is Rolando Martinez. I'm a native Houstonian, born and raised. I grew up in the East End, Segundo Barrio, and now I reside in the Hobby area of Houston, Texas. I'm an HISD student myself. My wife, a former ESL student as well. has gone to HISD and have 3 kids in HISD as well. My hope is that in HISD we would be the prime example of what a large urban school district can do when all community stakeholders, teachers, staff, superintendents, board members work together for the good of our kids. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for being here. I'm Paula Mendoza, and I was born on the north side of Houston. With my husband now reside for the last 30 plus years in the Heights. Our son graduated from Reagan High School, which is now Heights High School. We have 3 beautiful grandchildren, and I am a product of public schools as well as a public university. We are all here to serve our children of HISD. Thank you for coming.
Good afternoon. My name is Adam Rivon. I was born in Baytown, Texas. I am also a product of public education. I grew up like many families and many students in HISD to a single mom. I'm the youngest of 7 kids, and I am a graduate of Prairie View A&M University. I'm also a member of Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity. My son is a student. My son is a student in HISD. He's now an 8th grader, going to the 8th grade. And many of us, like you all, as parents of HISD students, are here to improve student outcomes. It's a pleasure to serve at this dais, and I appreciate your time and attention.
My name is Audrey Momanai. I'm the mother of 2 HISD students, a 6th grader and a 3rd grader. I'm a native Houstonian. I come from a long line of public educators. I am the product of a public education, and I attribute all my success to the work that I did and learned from my teachers in public schools. My training in education is in the law, and I'm a trial lawyer here in Houston, and I handle commercial disputes. I am looking forward to serving on this board with my colleagues, and I am looking forward to serving our children in HISD. Thank you. I've seen that some of our trustees are here in the audience, and I'd like to acknowledge our trustees and thank you all for being in attendance tonight. I look forward to working with you all in the future and trying to achieve the best that we can for the students of HISD. Our first order of business is to hear from the community. We are glad that you are here and look forward to working with you. Only those registered to speak will be permitted to address the board in accordance with our procedures. No person who is not registered timely will be permitted to speak at public comment. We have 27 speakers registered to speak this evening, and I'm requesting that each of those speakers be given the full 2 minutes to have their voice heard. We ask that the speakers stay on topic and refrain from naming individuals, especially students, as their identity is protected by law. But you may name your own child if you wish. I ask that you please respect the procedures and other speakers and end your comments promptly when your time has expired and the timer rings. If you are signed up to speak via Zoom, we must see you live on your camera as you speak. The first item held for registered speakers is election of board president. Will Stephen Hester please come to the podium? The speaker is also registered to address several other agenda items. Sir, you have 2 minutes. You have 2 minutes.
I am here to represent Cashmere, Fifth Ward, HISD, and my family. Now, I see all you guys here at this board meeting, and this question is about who was elected the president of the board. Am I correct? Yes. So I have all these people here that came here, and we all have pretty much a similar question. None of us voted for none of you guys. We did not vote for Mike Miles. We did not vote for Mike Miles. This is a Republican white fear takeover that is headed by Greg Abbott and Mike Morath. Your boss, we came here to speak to Mike Miles. He's still not here. Mike Morath is still not here. We oppose this election. We oppose this takeover. We oppose the president. And I have a question. What does this board have in place that is different that board President House already had, moving us into a B+ average? I want to know, what foundation plan do you guys have in place? Can somebody answer that question? What's the plan?
Sir, we're here to hear your public comment. What is the plan?
Well, so you guys are not going to answer any questions. So y'all came out here today to have Mike Miles not show up, to show up this whole fake meeting for PR, to not answer the public questions, to take our tax money and not be accountable for anything. You guys should be ashamed of yourself. You guys are not Houstonians. You guys are working for the system and the high ups. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. The next item for registered speakers is item 1, approval to suspend certain requirements of board policy BDAA local regarding board officers. Will Larry McKenzie please come to the podium? This speaker is also registered to address other agenda items.
So do I get extra time for having to address everything in 2 minutes?
No, sir. You have 2
Okay,
minutes.
well, please, I want to reclaim my 5 seconds from asking that question. Now, my name is Larry McKenzie. I'm a teacher in ISD. This is my 27th year teaching. All of the people that are up here had all of the chances in the world to help HISD. Where have you been? Now, somebody asked me, who is the superintendent? And they said, F. Mike Miles. I say, F. Mike Miles? Why are you cursing it? Go away. When you go to the restaurants and they look at you, they're going to say, hey, what are you doing? Your kids will be affected. Your family will be affected. This is not the only day that this is going to happen. If you don't like it, guess what? You could quit. You're not getting paid, so it's not going to affect you. You can't help because you don't know. And you're smiling, you were at Jones, and when they closed Jones, where were you? Nowhere to be found. I'm an education advocate. No, you're not. You pass. Go away. When you go to the restaurants and they look at you, they're going to say, hey, what are you doing? Your kids will be affected. Your family will be affected. This is not the only day that this is going to happen. If you don't like it, guess what? You could quit. You're not getting paid, so it's not going to affect you. You can't help because you don't know. And you're smiling, you were at Jones, and when they closed Jones, where were you? Nowhere to be found. I'm an education advocate. No, you're not. You patting on your own back. So here it is. My name is Larry McKenzie. You can look me up. This will not be the last time that you see me.
Thank you, sir. The next speaker is Patrick Huff, and then after Mr. Huff will be Jackie Anderson. So Mr. Huff, if you're here, thank you. The next speaker will be Jackie Anderson.
Good.
Go ahead, sir. You have 2 minutes.
Okay. Good evening, members of the Board of Managers. My name is Dr. Patrick Huff, and I come to you as a concerned citizen. I'm a retired middle school and high school principal in the Harris County area. Wheatley is the school that can't seem to get their accountability rating where TEA wants it to be, and was used as the school that drove the commissioner to make his rash decision. Yet last year, Wheatley made a C. Not just a C, but a 78, almost a B. I'm sure you know that. The only reason you are in your seats as Board of Managers is because of the bill in 2015, 1842. Now, this situation is not new. Commissioner Williams closed the entire North Forest ISD in 2013 due to their failure to achieve AYP for many consecutive years. Now, do you know what AYP is, and do you know how it affected schools across the country? If you don't know about it, you need to look it up and learn about it. The accountability system is a racket. It is discriminatory and it is inequitable. The principal of Seven Lakes in Katy and Clements in Fort Bend is not in any danger of their school failing to make accountability rating, a good accountability rating. Not for some of the schools in HISD, however. The reason goes back to the challenges, the many challenges that come to schools when their attendance zones are in neighborhoods of poverty. They are portrayed to be bad schools. They are not. They have many challenges that the other schools in the other areas outside of HISD don't have. Now, the people in HISD have lost their representation due to the racket that is the
Thank you, sir. Thank you. The next speaker, thank you, sir. The next speaker is Jackie Anderson.
The Biden administration's drug czar warns opioid-related deaths are on the rise. Coming up, what leaders are doing to stop the trend. And it's another day to celebrate the beauty of the ocean, how you can get involved in the fight against pollution.
You the only black man up there. You the only black man up there. I know you kissing.
We're going to take a 5-minute recess. We'll be back when the Zoom comes back on.
I know you had to say that song. Oh, y'all quit.
Oh, don't tell me y'all living. Y'all getting ready to take over the 8th largest school.
This is y'all doing.
We are taking a 5-minute recess to allow the electronics to come back on.
You should be ashamed of yourself.
What?
They scared. They not coming back. They not coming back.
Go get together. Go get together. Okay, have 200 people. Get on the phone, baby. Yeah, get on the phone. Take care.
It's a monsoon outside. Raining cats and dogs.
certified. They not coming back.
And then they got scared. They put the point way back here now. Remember, you used to be up there?
Okay, for everybody, we're back. It is 5:59 p.m. We had to take a brief recess, just so everybody's aware. There's a really bad storm that's coming through, so we took a temporarily took out our live stream. This meeting was noticed as an open meeting with a Zoom component to allow for the folks at home and who are not here with us tonight to be able to watch the live stream. We took a brief recess and we are now back streaming. So Ms. Jackie Anderson, Miss Anderson, you have 2 minutes.
Good evening.
You may begin, ma'am.
I'm Jackie Anderson, President of the Houston Federation of Teachers. I'm speaking to Agenda Item 2. In all thy get the understanding. Any changes to board meeting schedules that do not allow for more community input continues to disenfranchise the district's most vulnerable and harmed students. While you are here, use your gifted power to make an impact for HISD students. Work for full funding, more meaningful instruction that is not tied to STAR, smaller class sizes, stop applying for waivers, enhance wraparound services, and expand community schools. Work to improve the conditions in which children live and therefore learn. Value teacher input. Add libraries, not remove them in areas where they are most needed. Provide rich professional development that is peer-to-peer. And direct the superintendent to attend meetings and plan with full transparency. Activity and productivity are not always aligned. They do not mean the same thing. Show us that you really care about HISD and its students across this entire district. Thank you.
The next speaker, thank you. The next speaker is Alexandria Warren, and then after Alexandria Warren will be Elizabeth Chapman. Miss Warren, you have 2 minutes, ma'am.
Thank you. Hello, y'all. My name is Alexandria Warren. I'm a product of HISD schools, going to Parker Elementary, Meyerland, Johnson, which is now Meyerland, and then Carnegie Vanguard High School. There's actually somebody in this building today who taught me, Mr. Andrew Dewey, ironically for AP US History. So just a little bit of information that I learned from him helps me make this next statement. Cards on the table, we recognize that this takeover is just one of many steps that the state of Texas is taking in its movement towards a fascist dictatorship based on the white supremacist ideology, which is a sprinkle of Puritan Christian nationalism mixed in. Your repeated power grab for the largest school district in the public school system has not gone unseen. And I want to make it incredibly clear that while you are beautifully diverse, fascism is still fascism with a beautiful face. So if you have the intention of speaking for and ruling over Black and brown schools, I'd like for you to understand at this point that everyone in front of you and in charge of you, we do not respect. So if you would like to, at any point in time, resign your position, I highly suggest you do that as soon as possible, because we as a people no longer respect and never have, if you remember history, Greg Abbott or Mike Morales, and we will not respect you because we recognize that you have already been bought and sold. I want to thank y'all for talking to us today, though. Have a great one.
The next speaker is Elizabeth Chapman. Thank you, ma'am.
Speak up. We can't hear you.
Ms. Chapman, you have 2 minutes.
My name is Elizabeth Chapman, and I have just finished my 17th year as a teacher. My last decade, I have proudly served in HISD, and I want to remain here for the rest of my career. There has been a lot of conversation about our deficits and our shortcomings and everything that has gone wrong in HISD, but in welcoming you here tonight in your new roles, I want to tell you that there is a lot that is right with HISD. We have parents who, after working long and demanding jobs, still find the time and energy to invest in our local schools. We have teachers and principals who are so smart and capable and could work in any number of professions but choose to be here because they believe in the mission of public education. And most of all, we have students who are curious and creative and kind and full of potential. Even though we are no longer able to vote for our board, I hope that you will make room for our voices, our wisdom, and our experience in your decision making.
Thank you. The next item held for registered speakers is item 2, approval to suspend certain requirements of board policy BE local regarding meeting dates. We will begin with speakers who are signed up to address the board in the auditorium. Will Michelle Williams please come to the podium? The speaker will be followed by Sarah Rivlin. Thank you, ma'am. You have 2 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Michelle Williams, president of the Houston Education Association.
TxDOT says there are resources available for families who cannot afford a car seat or need help to properly install them into their cars. More information can be found on fox26houston.com. The fifth suspect in connection to the burglary of Jose Altuve's home was back in court today. Prosecutors say they found text messages and phone records between 35-year-old Edwin Bulos and the thieves, even after the alleged burglary. He's facing charges of felony theft, but his attorneys say he plans on pleading not guilty on those charges. Today, the family of Robert Terry Jr., the sixth inmate to die while in Harris County Jail custody this year, tells Fox 26 they're filing a civil rights lawsuit against the facility and the sheriff's office. They're demanding a thorough investigation after finding new alleged details about his time in the jail. We want to warn you, some of these claims may be disturbing.
Harris County Jail, time is up.
Attorney Allie Booker is calling on the Harris County Jail to give all details on the death of inmate Robert Terry Jr. The Houston man died in custody on May 16th after what officials called an apparent medical emergency. He was booked just 3 days before. Booker says new details claim the 32-year-old was foaming at the mouth and in and out of consciousness. He also vomited excessively before he died and says inmates tell her more than 90 minutes passed before he received help.
You know what jailers did? Laughed at him, taunted him, told him nothing was wrong with him, cursed him out.
Fox 26 reached out to the medical examiner's office for confirmation. They say the report is not yet available. Terry's family joined several others who are also awaiting information on in-custody deaths. Many of them are without details from forensics, Harris Health, or the Texas Rangers investigations. The family spoke briefly, still traumatized over the situation. His young son is listed as one of the plaintiffs in the suit.
Guys, his dad will never bring him lunch at school. His dad will never be able to tell him it's going to be okay.
The sheriff's office and Harris Health tell Fox 26 they cannot comment on pending litigation. Funeral plans for Robert Terry Jr. are set for this Saturday. Happening now, a live look where Houston ISD is holding its first public meeting to elect officers and ratify the superintendent contract for Mike Miles, the former Dallas ISD superintendent. This comes after the TEA took control of the district last Thursday. Ahead of today's meeting, parents, teachers, support staff, and students gathered outside of the Hattie Mae White building in protest ahead of tonight's board meeting, and they've been protesting during the meeting as well. Former Houston ISD Superintendent Millard House has been named as the new CEO of public school in Prince George's County in Maryland. House was the superintendent at Houston ISD for 2 years before the TEA takeover that went into effect last week. Travelers here in Houston can thank the smoke from the wildfires in Canada for a few flight delays and cancellations today. Although the FAA lifted the ground stop earlier today for planes headed to New York, a number of flights throughout the day are still impacted. The low visibility due to the smoke in cities across the Northeast has made on-time travel a little bit more difficult. One airline passenger who's headed to New York says although her flight out of Houston doesn't appear to be delayed, that may not be the case for her connecting flight.
I've seen some pictures, it's pretty intense, and I'm worried about going there. I don't know, my flight is from St. Louis to New York and Syracuse, so we'll see.
Airline passengers have been triple checking flight boards in their phones for flight information and keeping their fingers crossed that their travel won't be disrupted by the smoke. We encourage you to do the same. Well, as the latest element of what he describes as a layered border defense, Governor Greg Abbott announced the deployment of a floating wall in the Rio Grande River. The first 1,000 feet of these floating barrier buoys will be placed in the river near Eagle Pass, with more certain to come. DPS Commander Steve McCraw says the barriers are extremely difficult to get past and are meant as a deterrent for those considering...
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next is Naomi Doyle Madrid, and then after her is Allison Newport. Ms. Doyle Madrid. Not here? Okay. Ms. Newport, Ms. Allison Newport, and then after that is Ms. Ruth Kravitz. Ms. Newport, you have 2 minutes. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Allison Newport, and I'm the proud parent of 2 HISD students. I'm here to tell you today that I've talked with lots of parents about schools. That's kind of something that we sit around and talk about. What schools are kids going to? And in all of my years as a parent, I've never heard another parent say that they want more test prep for their kids, that they don't feel like we do enough. In fact, to the contrary, as a parent of a 4th and a 6th grader, which is right in the midst of 5 years of intense testing every single year. We mostly talk about how we want less testing. So this plan to sentence these kids at these 29 schools to endless test prep and scripted curriculum and less electives is a bad plan. It's wrong, okay? You wouldn't be doing it at my school, so why doing it in these black and brown schools? Please do what's right for your community. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Ruth Kravitz, and after Ms. Kravitz is Sarah Terrell. Is Ms. Kravitz here? Ms. Kravitz, you have 2 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you for my time. I know that you mean well, so what I'm about to say, I know if you knew what we all know, you would not be doing what you're doing today. So let us begin. I've been a teacher and a parent and an administrator in HISD, and I really believe in the power and the promise of public education and in democracy. But what is happening tonight is not democracy. It is the veneer of democracy. Mike Miles privately told folks that if any of the Board of Managers disagrees with him, he will simply tell Morath to replace you. That is not democracy. My father is 93 years old. He is one of 8 people surviving the Holocaust. He told me last week, this is fascism. It is wrong for you to do it. It is inappropriate for you to do it. It's time to stand up for every single child. You've been carefully curated by Morath to look representative of Houston's diversity. 7 of the 9 of you live in affluent neighborhoods west of downtown and do not represent the parents and students where this disruptive change is happening. You're uniformly in support of things, privatization, expanded use of STAR and charters. Because you were chosen for your willingness to rubber stamp whatever decisions Mike Miles make, and you have been meeting in private for a month since elected in early May, there'll be no accountability from the dais or the ballot box. So here, let me quickly tell you about Mike Miles. And about his policies. From 2010 to 2013, the Apollo program used a similar tactic to replace most of the teachers at the same schools, hurting the same communities and the same children. It provided no reading gains, no sustained math gains. Enrollment dropped despite a $60 million price tag. That was just 10 years ago. Under Mike Miles in Dallas, the same thing happened. A 20% increase in the number of low-performing schools, a decline in graduation rates, and skyrocketing teacher turnover. And corruption scandals. He resigned after 3 years. What we want is for you to be...
Thank you, ma'am. Our next speaker is Sarah Terrell. Is Miss Terrell, Sarah Terrell, is she here? She's not here. We also have a speaker registered to address this topic via Zoom. Ms. Smith, can you admit Maria Benzon?
Ms. Benzon, please turn on your camera. You may begin.
Good afternoon. My name is Maria Benzon, and I'm a graduate of HISD, a parent of an HISD student, and an HISD teacher. I'm here to speak about business agenda item number 2, suspending the requirement that regular meetings be held. Within this agenda item, there was no other information. When are monthly meetings going to be scheduled? Are there going to be monthly, bi-monthly, whatever it is, please be specific. I care about my child's education, as well as all the children in Houston ISD. It is necessary to have regularly scheduled meetings so that parents, educators, and other stakeholders can express support, voice concerns, ask questions, and eventually get responses from Mr. F. Mike Miles and his appointed board of managers. HISD is a public school district consisting of many schools in our community. We, the citizens, should have a voice. It seems that Superintendent F. Mike Miles aims to silence the public, the parents, the educators, and the students. Martin Luther King once said, "Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter." Sirs and madams, my colleagues will not be silenced. We will speak our truths. We will speak our experience. We will fight for our children and our communities, whether it be at an unelected, unrepresentative board meeting outside of Hattie Mae White, in front of our schools or anywhere in public. We will not be silent. Thank you.
Thank you. The next item held for registered speakers. The next item held for registered speakers is item 3, approval and ratification of acting superintendent employment and relocation agreement with F. Mike Miles. We will begin with speakers who signed up to address the board in the auditorium. Will Daniel Santos please come to the podium? This speaker will be followed by Ann Eagleton. Mr. Santos, sir, you have 2 minutes.
I am Daniel Santos, Executive Vice President of the Houston Federation of Teachers, and I rise to speak on item 3. When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. The current interim superintendent has shown us already. His embrace of trickle-down reform in Houston, just like in Colorado and in Dallas, will result in disappointment and disruption. In Colorado, under his leadership, the district did not meet a single goal in elementary and high school math within most vulnerable student subgroups. In Dallas, the number of failing schools increased, and STAR scores decreased when compared to Houston and the state. His reforms resulted in a mass exodus of excellent teachers and principals, the highest in Dallas ISD history. Soon, the appointed managers will show us who they are when they vote. Who are you? The community is here to witness either your integrity or your mendacity. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is Ann Eagleton. Miss Eagleton, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Ann Eagleton. Both of my children went all the way through HISD. I have over 20 years in HISD as either a parent or as an advocate. My lane of advocacy is more on the financial conflict of interest and basic shenanigans that go on in this building. You have been appointed by Mike Morath to be the Board of Managers. And in that term is manager. You need to manage this district, not take orders from someone in Austin or from a carpetbagger that just showed up. In my over 20 years here, this is the 7th superintendent, and never once have I had carloads of people from Dallas drive hours to come and speak out against someone. You're not obligated. You are not obligated to ratify his contract. You are managing this district now. You need to find your integrity. You need to do some soul searching and really decide, is he the right person for HISD? And another point I'd like to bring up, I'm wondering, will you be given public email addresses? Because as a taxpayer, you get billions of dollars from the taxpayers. And I think we should at least get an email address so we can check in with you and find out how our money is being spent. You are also financial stewards. I know that AJ Craybill told you ignore the finances, okay? But in the organization, the superintendent and the internal auditor report to you. So that should tell you something, that a good part of your job is managing the finances and keeping an eye on what's going on, because there are thieves in this building and I'm tired of it. And if you want to do something right, you can start by declining this contract and you can start looking for the thieves. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Robert Ceccarelli, and after him is Mary Lowe. Sir, you have 2 minutes.
Yeah, Robert Ceccarelli. I'm in Dallas. I know Mike Miles very, very well. It was his worst nightmare in Dallas. I just have to say something. I'm very impressed with you all. But here's the thing you need to keep this up until Mike Miles goes. Thank you. What you're doing now, you're running out of town. Dallas never did this, okay?
Yeah.
Well, you need to do this.
Yeah, we gonna bring y'all out of here. Y'all ain't got no pride, no integrity.
Now, what I'm saying now, Mike Morath has given Mike Miles a blank check, okay? He didn't have that in Dallas. So Mike Miles is seizing on this opportunity to get what he wants. I'm asking you, you got to keep him in check. Because if not, there will be something going on, like there was fighting in California. Remember about the LGBTQ? I'm just saying to you is Mike Miles is crazy, okay? Mike Miles has an agenda. He always talks about teachers and principals, but he never talks about students, what they need to do. He keeps on doing the same thing. He's a robot, and he wants to get the teachers and principals, and he lets the students alone because he knows they can't do the work, okay? How can the teacher be good if you don't tell the students what to do, okay? That's impossible. And that way, he wants to keep his teachers in trouble because the students will not do the work, and the students know that they got the edge over the teacher because Mike Miles does not like the teachers, okay? So I'm just saying to you is, if you want to have the best way possible, he's got to talk about the students, holding them accountable. Why doesn't he hold the students accountable? Why? Tell me why. It's been going on for 5 years in Dallas. It's always the teachers and principals, and the students are left alone. He doesn't care about the students. He's just the teachers and principals get in trouble, and that builds his ego. That builds his ego. I mean that.
Sir, thank you. Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is Mary Lowe. And after Ms. Lowe is Courtney Revels. Ms. Rowe, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Is Floyd Mike Miles vetted? No, of course not. His appointment is made by an appointee. There is no hint of constitutionality or vetting. Is there a history of success? No. Miles comes from DISD, and he left closed schools and low morale and high teacher attrition. In fact, Hinojosa had to be brought back in to clean up his mess. Is Mike Morath held accountable? No. He is unvetted, unfettered, and is accountable to no one and has been caught in many crony deals. This is what you will have in your district. If this board does not fight for taxpayer, community, and children by rejecting the appointment of Floyd Mike Miles and the Morath cartel, here is what you can expect. Only top-down decisions absent of any teacher or parent input. Do not question what you have been told to do. Expect little to no communication, training, or professional development with support to implement. Curriculum experiments with unproven and unsafe technology. Houston, as a matter of fact, has failed because it has been a pilot for technology experiments under the TEA. This will continue. The adult learning will be recycled PowerPoints from Colorado Springs. All professional training will be void of any research or best practices, and there will be zero financial transparency. Expect his actions to be contrary to his words. If this board's goal is to take advantage of poor and minority class children, using them to advance and open up the privatization of schools for the political power of the governor and technology vendors from Morath, then Miles is your guy. If you want to save your city and educate children, take charge and find your own administration. You have the authority. You are not a team of 8 under a Gestapo. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Courtney Revels. After Courtney Revels is Jonathan Bryant. Ms. Revels, you have 2 minutes. Thank you.
Hello, well, my name is Courtney Revels. I stay in the North Forest area. So one thing I would say is, like, you guys have the power to do some things. So I would say reject this approval of
Mike Miles' contract, but I would also like to say he has already proven to be a failure, right? And it's not even about him not being here. It's about the fact that he already failed. He already failed in Dallas. This is an unintegral land grab. Less than 10 years ago, North Forest was taken over, and then 2 years later, the TEA moved to start this takeover of HISD. We lost a lot of land, we lost our tax money, and we lost our representation. We do not respect having a board of managers because that's not what we asked for. We expect the electeds to look out for us. We have so many other cumulative issues that are not addressed by doing STAR prep. We are 6 years out of Harvey, 3 years out of COVID. Who was impacted by Harvey? Who here house flooded out? But those kids in Wheatley, those kids in McReynolds, the kids in North Forest, we lost everything. We lost everything, and now we've lost our schools because nobody will come and address the real issues. We live in a food desert where we have food insecurities. In my area, in Setagas, we have a differentiation of 20 years. Our life expectancy is 20 years less than the entire city. Tell our elected officials in our state to do something about that. When they putting schools on Superfund sites, that's y'all's fault. Kids being exposed to lead and not having the cognitive abilities to perform to the standard that y'all keep changing. We're demanding change, and it might start with y'all. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Jonathan Bryant. Jonathan. Mr. Bryant, you have 2 minutes.
Good evening. I'm a proud HISD teacher. I'm here tonight to urge the Board of Managers to vote no on the approval of Mike Miles as HISD superintendent. With Mike, the math don't add up. The proposals he has presented thus far to fix HISD are inappropriate for public education and disrespectful to our students, teachers, and communities. Rather than bringing his best ideas to HISD, Miles has reached into the dustbin of failed corporate education reform and pulled out the worst ideas designed to undermine our schools. Under Miles' so-called new education system, hundreds of teachers and staff in 29 of the district's predominantly black schools are being humiliated, forced to reapply for their jobs. This move is disrespectful to the years of hard work our teachers and students have done to improve our schools in the midst of the pandemic and despite lack of state funding. Under this scheme, teacher turnover will surely increase, just like it did during his reign in Dallas ISD, where teacher turnover nearly doubled in 3 years. Under this scheme, Miles will turn these predominantly black schools into testing factories, and in the process, turn our students into data points and test scores to be sold to testing companies. His obsession with testing is so great, he is actually firing the librarians in these schools to focus more on test prep. Under Miles' tenure in Dallas, despite his testing drill and kill method, the number of low-performing schools actually increased by nearly 20%. With Mike, the math don't add up. If Miles truly believes raising pay will fix HISD, why doesn't he recommend the Texas legislature increase salaries for all HISD staff across the board instead of his failed pay for performance schemes? Why doesn't he demand that all of our campuses be adequately funded by the state to meet the needs of our students and communities instead of hiring outside consulting groups to determine what they think our students need? Do the right thing and send Mike packing.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is Karina Quesada Leon, and then after her is Sam Smith. Karina Quesada Leon. And after her is Sam Smith. Ma'am, you have 2 minutes.
Just like the Alabama slave code.
Ma'am, you have 2 minutes.
Vote no, please, on Mike Miles. Mike Miles has a track record for making education worse for children, creating major teacher turnover, and leaving a district a lot worse than he found it. You don't have to take my word for it. Look up what he did in Dallas and talk to these folks back here. If you're familiar with the movie Idiocracy, he's like President Camacho, and his reforms and ideas for education are akin to irrigating crops with Gatorade. You, the Board of Managers, will never gain our trust nor our respect because you're illegitimate and you're voluntarily participating in disenfranchising us. Never forget that you were chosen due to your politics and willingness to discard other people's kids. Jeanette Linder, we, the voters, didn't want you.
We didn't want you.
But you've decided to force yourself on us. Chasing after power and name recognition, you finally got it. Too bad your legacy will be total failure, leaving HISD worse for thousands of children. But hey, as long as your children aren't affected by it, you won't care. You used a hardship transfer to get your children into a coveted school.